The world was shocked by Jim Nabors in 2013. He married his partner of 38 years when he was 82 years old. Fans didn't know he was out there. They saved $4 because of the wedding. $8 million in taxes. But it also made old wounds worse. His partner is finally telling their story 7 years after Jim died. The real reason they hid for 40 years. The scandal in Hollywood that made Jim and Rock Hudson no longer be friends. The donor liver that made everything different. You will never see Gomer Pyle the same way again after Stan tells you about their secret life. Jim Nabors was born in Sylacauga, Alabama, on June 12, 1930. There were only about 8,000 people living there at the time. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. And hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, back to the topic. What we were talking about was his family and his grandmother lived together in a small 3-room house. Life was hard because of the Great Depression. Over 25% of people in Alabama were out of work, and many families were just getting by. The Nabors family was the same. Every day it was hard for them to get enough food. Jim learned to be strong and humble growing up in that world, and he carried those lessons with him all his life. Not only was Jim poor, he also had terrible asthma. Asthma wasn't treated the same way it is now in the 1930s and 1940s. Many times, he was stuck in bed and couldn't breathe. That meant they couldn't play sports, which was hard for a boy from the South. Jim didn't give up when he felt lonely, though. He turned to music. He began singing as a hobby, but it quickly turned into his true love. The asthma, which seemed like a curse, pushed him down the path that would make him famous. Mavis, his mother, worked long hours at a truck stop as a waitress and took any tips she could get. Fred, his dad, worked any job he could get. Fred became a police officer for the town in the end. The pay wasn't great, but it gave them some stability. They kept chickens in the yard to get eggs and meat to help pay for food. The family got by because they worked hard and were smart. Jim learned as a child what it meant to work for everything. Jim's secret talent was discovered in high school. He joined the glee club and the church choir. No one thought the shy, asthmatic boy would have such a big, deep voice. But when Jim sang, everyone was shocked. It was his baritone voice that made people give him solos in class and choir. His voice became the talk of the town, and it gave him a new confidence that would help him through life. Jim went to the University of Alabama to study business after high school. It was important for him to pick the safe route. But things changed when I got to college. He joined Delta Tau Delta, which is where he tried acting for the first time. People noticed him when he was in their shows and skits. Jim was funny, at ease, and himself on stage. Business classes were important to him, but he found himself drawn to performing. He was more than just smart in college. He also had skill and charm. Jim had to find work after he graduated. He moved to New York City and got a job at the UN as a typist. From the stage, it was a long way. He felt lonely and far from home as he typed reports in a big, cold office. It was worse for him to breathe in dirty city air. It was his dream to work in show business. He was just trying to get by for now, though. He had to leave New York because of his health. Jim put down roots in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and found work at WRCB-TV, a nearby TV station. As a film cutter, his job was to cut news clips and ads together. He learned how TV worked behind the scenes, even though it wasn't fun. Until late at night, he would practice his routines in the empty studio, making the chairs look like people were watching. He moved west in the late 1950s because of his asthma. He got ready and left for Los Angeles. In that place, he cut movies for NBC. He played in small clubs at night and during the day. Almost every meal was a peanut butter sandwich for him. He didn't give up, though. He was sure that if he worked hard enough, someone would see him. A small nightclub in Santa Monica called The Horn is where Jim made the act that would change his life. He was shy and clumsy, like a country boy who would stumble onto the stage and then surprise everyone with a huge opera voice. The crowd loved how the comedians and singers mixed so well. A lot of people liked his shows, so producers started going to see what all the fuss was about. In 1962, Bill Dana, a comedian, saw Jim open for someone else. Jim got a spot on the Steve Allen Show because Bill liked him so much. Jim did his hillbilly act and then his voice blew everyone away. There was a huge response. All of a sudden, agents and producers were calling Jim. His time had finally come after all those years of hard work. Andy Griffith came to the club one night. The show Neighbors put on amazed him. His offer was for a one-time part on the Andy Griffith Show. Neighbors would play Gomer Pyle, a nice but dull gas station worker. Everything changed with what was supposed to be a single look. Everyone liked Neighbors' charm. The producers knew right away that they had something great. Neighbors' life will never be the same after that chance meeting in a small club. It also changed comedy in the US. People couldn't get enough of Gomer Pyle when he first came on TV in 1962. He had a lot of hits with the phrases, golly, and Shazam. His wide-eyed look and deep southern drawl made these words stick in my mind. On playgrounds, kids began to say, golly. It was used at work by adults. Not even politicians could say no. People all over the place used these funny phrases. They were in comic books. They were in ads. Toys and shirts were even made after them. The words were silly and not dangerous. Back then, it was important for TV shows not to directly talk about God or magic. An important time for the country was going through fast changes, and Gomer's simple happiness touched many. His words made me feel safe and amazed. Gomer was such a hit that CBS had no choice but to keep him. Gomer became a regular on the Andy Griffith Show just a few months after his first appearance. A huge number of fans wrote letters asking for more Gomer. Folks liked how kind and funny he was, and how he balanced out Andy's serious sheriff role. People soon loved Gomer's stories the most on the show. He started to take the show away from other characters. It was unusual for Neighbors to go from being a guest star to a regular. It showed how much people really liked Gomer's kindness and sense of humor. Gomer did even better after that. CBS did something brave in 1964. They gave him his own show called Gomer Pyle, USM. That wasn't common back then. There were not many spin-offs, and side characters almost never got their own show. The risk paid off, though. As Gomer Pyle, USMC. When it aired for the first time on September 25, 1964, it became a hit right away. A lot of people liked Sergeant Carter, Frank Sutton, and Gomer, Jim Nabors, who was sweet and innocent. Every week, viewers laughed because of how kind Gomer was and how frustrated Carter was all the time. Before he got his own show, Gomer had only been in 23 episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. That showed how much people liked him. There were 5 years of the show. Fans got 150 episodes. From Nielsen to Nielsen, it never fell below 10th place. Just behind Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, it was the second most watched show in America when it was over. Neighbors and Sutton worked together so well that magic happened. Every scene was fun to watch because of Gomer's innocent charm and Carter's loud anger. In front of the camera, Aaron Rubin and Sheldon Leonard were sure they had something great. Even though they shot in California, the real heart of small-town America was on a Marine base. People still buy and watch the DVDs and old episodes. Jim Nabors was in a lot of the scenes. At that time, that didn't happen very often. People all over the country saw him as a symbol of kindness and goodness. One interesting thing about the show was that it never talked about the Vietnam War. The United States was in the middle of that terrible war from 1964 to 1969. But Gomer Pyle never brought it up. They and CBS wanted to take people away from the stress and sadness of real life. It was important to them that the show made people feel better. But they paid attention to the funny mistakes, Gomer's good heart, and Carter's yelling. It worked. For most of its run, the show stayed in the top 3. People all over the United States tuned in to escape the harsh realities of the time. People never saw the pain that Jim Nabors went through behind the jokes and smiles. One thing he had to hide was that he was gay. In the 1960s, being gay could ruin a job. A lot of his co-stars and crew knew, and some of them were mean to him because of it. They told mean jokes. They didn't include him. They made him feel like he didn't belong. It was dangerous for Nabors to speak out, so he had to keep quiet. Imagine showing a happy face to millions of people every day while being scared inside. People like Ron Howard said years later that they knew what Nabors was going through. They heard the mean comments and cold shoulders. They saw that people didn't treat him as well as the straight actors. Nabors kept going. Always do your job and be nice. It was hard to hear his strength, but it was there. People learned from his story how hard it was for gay actors in Hollywood's golden years. It also showed how brave they were to keep going. Nabors also worked harder than most stars. His days were 12 hours long. Lots of the time, he began before dawn. He had to learn up to 15 pages of dialogue every night. He didn't have time to relax or be himself. During the weekends and breaks, he played in nightclubs and concerts. He tried to stay busy, maybe to get away from the fear and stress that were following him. It scared him that all of his fame would go away if the truth came out, even when it was at its peak. It was a surprise when Jim Nabors joined the music business in 1965. He was already well known for playing Gomer Pyle, the silly but nice character who made people laugh. Fans were shocked when he showed a different side of himself when he signed with Columbia Records. His voice was not at all like Gomer's high-pitched drawl. It was a rich operatic baritone. He made more than 30 albums in the next 10 years. Most of them were love songs, but he also sang pop, gospel, and country songs. His fame wasn't just based on how many albums he put out. 12 of them made it to number 200 on the Billboard 200. 3 of his albums went gold between 1968 and 1974. It got as high as number 34 on the Billboard chart with Jim Nabors Sings Love Me With All Your Heart in 1966. His cover of The Impossible Dream was a surprise hit in Australia in 1968, making it into the top 30. Fans who only knew him as Gomer were shocked. No one thought that his voice and music would make people respect him so much. At the same time, Nabors became close with Carol Burnett in a way that will go down in TV history. Nabors was the special guest on the very first episode of The Carol Burnett Show, which aired in 1967. That happened more than once. He was the main guest at the start of every new season for the next 11 years, until the show ended in 1978. People agreed with Carol when she said he was her lucky charm. When Nabors and Burnett were on stage together, it was impossible to miss how friendly and well they got along. People looked forward to seeing him because he always brought heart, humor, and music that people would never forget. Nabors always found time for the show, even when he was very busy. He became a sign to fans that the season would get off to a great start. Nabors was also the star of his own variety shows. From 1969 to 1971, the Jim Nabors Hour had artists from his earlier shows, music, and comedy. He was also in TV movies in 1969 and 1974. He was always great at singing, but dancing was a different story. Nabors was the first to say he didn't have a lot of rhythm, and he often made fun of the fact. One time he was performing live, he tried a fancy dance move and pulled his pants down on stage. He wasn't embarrassed, he laughed with everyone else. It became part of his charm and showed how willing he was to make fun of himself and make a mistake into a big deal. Nabors began what would become one of the most beloved traditions in American sports in 1972. At the Indianapolis 500, he sang "Back Home Again in Indiana." He kept coming back because people loved it so much. Between 1972 and 2014, he sang the song 34 times in real life. A huge number of people in the Speedway sang along with his deep, powerful voice. He had the Purdue Marching Band behind him, and that moment always gave me chills. A video of his performance played before the race, even though he couldn't be there in person because of his health. It was full of tributes and sad goodbyes when he sang it for the last time in 2014. Fans thought of Nabors as one of their own because he had become so connected to the race. In the late 1970s, people's tastes in music changed, but Nabors didn't try to follow the crowd. He switched to Ranwood Records instead, which was known for classic pop and easy listening music. Even though disco and rock were becoming popular, Nabors stuck to what he did best. His loyal fans kept buying his records because they liked his voice and the songs they sang. Randy Wood and Lawrence Welk started Ranwood, which gave Nabors a place to keep making music. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, actors who didn't fit the image that studios made for them were in danger in Hollywood. If you're gay, you could lose your job right away. Jim Nabors, the beloved Gomer Pyle, and Rock Hudson, the good-looking star everyone thought would make a great leading man, were at the center of one of the scandals of the time. A joke that got out of hand linked their names. Hunter's Beach gay friends made funny wedding invitations and sent them out. The invitations said it was Rock Hudson and Jim Nabors' wedding reception. As a play on Nabors' character's name, they even called Hudson Rock Pyle. But a joke that started in private quickly caught on with everyone. The story was picked up by gossip columns and was soon all over the national news. People back then could lose their jobs because of a rumor like that. They stopped being seen together because they were both so scared. They gave up their friendship to keep their jobs. After many years, the story went in a new, strange direction. Someone who used to be a model for Vogue but didn't want to be named said she had been to that wedding. She said she was only 15 years old when she went to what she thought was a normal wedding between a man and a woman with a friend of Rock Hudson's. She said she instead found herself in a living room in Belgravia that was lit by candles. A lot of male designers and supermodels were in the room. She was shocked to see a priest marry two men. I was a pure 15-year-old at the time, and I was shocked by the whole thing, she said. What did Rock and Jim say to the priest? I can't remember. The old story got new life because of this story, whether it's true or not. People were even more interested in what had really happened after seeing how hard and secretive life was for gay stars back then. The story did a lot of damage. Jim Nabors was about to get a big new CBS show. He was already famous from the Andy Griffith Show and Gomer Pyle, U.S. Marine Corps. But CBS pulled him away when rumors of his marriage spread. The network didn't want to put their name on a star who was involved in a gay scandal. Nabors missed a big chance to move up in his career. It got even worse when he and Hudson stopped talking. They used to take vacations together and have fun together, but now they stayed away from each other. Both men knew that a picture of them together could hurt their careers. Hudson and Nabors both had to say in public that the rumors were not true. They said that the story was just an aside for a joke. But the harm was already done. They tried to stay away from each other, and their managers did everything they could to make them look like straight stars. Nabors was told to hang out with actresses just for fun. He said no because he believed that would not work out. To stop the talk, studios even moved actors to different areas of town. All of this caused a lot of stress. Both men were afraid that one mistake would ruin their lives. They had to deal with the scandal for many years. Already having a bad day? Nabors had a scary experience at a show in the Houston Astrodome. More than 60,000 people could fit in that space. A woman who had razor blades taped to her fingers got close to him while he was performing. She cut his arm, and blood came out all over the place. Marines who were there because he was connected to Gomer Pyle rushed to protect him. They put up a shield of people and hid him. He was rushed to the hospital because he needed help right away. He has deep scars from the attack. He was afraid of crowds after that and became more careful about his safety. Behind the scenes, Jim Nabors was nothing like Gomer Pyle. His rude words shocked his friends and interviewers. In one chat, Nabors, who is 84 years old, used the F-word twice in the first 2 minutes. That's what he said the whole time, in his soft southern drawl. Fans who met him in person thought he was funny and real, but they were shocked by how different he was from the character they knew. It was hard on Nabors to hide who he really was for so many years. He was always stressed because he was trying to keep his career safe while hiding who he really was. That stress caused anxiety and health issues. Being a hero to the public and an outsider in their eyes was too much for them at times. Nabors slowly left the Hollywood scene. He was happy in Hawaii by the late 1970s. In 1979, he built a simple house on more than 170 acres of land he bought on Maui. He could finally be himself there, away from the cameras. He made close friends and lived with his partner. The day Jim Nabors met Stan Cadwallader in July 1975 was the best day of his life. Jim was having a great time in Hawaii for his 45th birthday. Stan was a firefighter from Michigan who had just moved to Honolulu. He was 27 years old. The Ala Moana shopping center was where they met for the first time. They got along so well that they had dinner together that same night. Even though they were 18 years apart in age, they hit it off right away. Stan had just started working as a firefighter in Honolulu, just like his father had done. He was living on a boat. From that night on, they couldn't be apart. Stan was more than just Jim's partner. Eventually, he became his friend, business partner, and biggest fan. While same-sex relationships were against the law in most of the USS, they loved each other bravely and quietly. It was a secret between Jim and Stan for more than 35 years. Jim was always by himself or with friends when he was in the public eye. People thought Stan was just an assistant or part of Jim's business team when he showed up with him. To keep Jim's job, they had to do this. Hollywood didn't like actors who were gay and lived their lives openly. No one guessed the truth, even when Jim sang at big events like the Indianapolis 500 in 1978. Their privacy wasn't a sign of shame. It was about staying alive in a world that wouldn't let them in. Jim moved his family to Hawaii in 1976. He and Stan made it their home, away from the busy city of LA, and lived a quiet life there. They shared a house in the middle of nowhere. Jim had a macadamia plantation on Maui. He ran it for 25 years and then sold it to a conservation group. Stan took care of Jim's business and personal matters. Stan wasn't well known by anyone but their close friends and family. They lived simply together and helped each other through everything. Stan was there for Jim when things were bad. Jim's health started to get worse in 1994. When he got too tired, he was 61 years old. He lost strength every day, his skin turned yellow, and his limbs swelled up. The doctors did not know what was wrong. The situation became very important. He was rushed to the Mayo Clinic by a doctor. Tests showed that almost all of his liver had died. Jim had only a few months to live without a transplant. Hepatitis B had killed his liver, according to the doctors. Jim thought he got it when he was in India many years ago. He used a straight razor instead of his electric razor because it broke. He cut himself really badly, and that small mistake almost killed him. His liver had been slowly getting worse from the infection until it stopped working all of a sudden. He could only be saved by a transplant. Carol Burnett stepped in to help. She called Dr. Gary Gitnick at UCLA, who is one of the best liver doctors. Jim was able to get a transplant because of her help. Jim had surgery on February 7, 1994, which lasted 7 hours. He lived because of the new liver. Jim changed after that. He was honest about organ donation. He worked to raise awareness about liver disease and, over time, stopped hiding his personal life. For almost 40 years, no one knew about their love story. Not until January 15, 2013, did they finally get married. Stan was 64 years old and Jim was 82 years old. There was a small ceremony, just the two of them, at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel in Seattle. There was only a judge and some friends. Fans were shocked when they got married because they didn't know Jim had been with the same woman for 38 years. "We've been together for 38 years, and I'm not ashamed for people to know that," Jim said later. "To keep things private, I didn't tell anyone about it." Jim Nabors' wedding to Stan Cadwallader was more than just a big event in his life. Everything changed for his family and his partner's future. It was thought that Nabors had a fortune of $13 million when he died in 2017. Since they were legally married, Cadwallader didn't have to pay any federal or Hawaii state estate taxes on what he got. That was only possible because married couples could deduct an unlimited amount of their taxes. Before equal marriage rights, people in same-sex relationships could lose millions of dollars in taxes. Professionals say Nabors' choice saved at least $4.8 million that the government would have gotten. That money stayed with Stan instead. Marriage equality didn't just change lives, as Nabors' story showed. It also kept legacies safe. Nabors kept in touch with the stage even when he was older. His voice has been a part of the Indianapolis 500 since 1972. For more than 40 years, he sang "Back Home Again" in Indiana almost every year. People came to see him because he was in the race. It was something he did all the way into his 80s. He performed for the last time in 2014, when he was 84 years old. After that, his health didn't let him travel, but people will always remember how his voice made the pre-race ceremony better. It was hard for organizers to find someone to take his place. For many, there was no one else who could have won the Indianapolis 500 instead of Jim Nabors. Nabors passed away on November 30, 2017. He died in peace at his Honolulu home at the age of 87, with Stan by his side. From a small Alabama town to fame across the country and finally to a place where he could live openly and honestly, he had come a long way. His health was getting worse, especially in the last year after being sick for years and getting a liver transplant. He had love, peace, and the comfort of his own home in the end.